You may have heard of buyer personas, you may have heard of the buyer's journey, and you may not be very convinced that you need to spend time on either of these things. Hi, I'm John Durso, president of Crosshatch Creative, and this is Be Bold, Be Smart, all about inbound marketing for consulting firms. Now, before I get into our take on this, let me give you a couple definitions for each of those. So, a buyer persona is actually defining kind of the average or aggregate of your target audience. And it gets pretty specific. So you can have an age, gender, even a name, hobbies, where they live, whatever actually defines your audience, and that's your buyer persona. And this is useful because the idea is that it helps you when you sit down to write or create content, which you often do in inbound marketing. It helps you know who you're creating it for and to really have content that connects with your actual audience. The buyer journey is still about understanding the buyer, of course, but it's a little bit different. So the buyer journey is discovering where the buyer first realizes that they have a pain or they have a need that they want to meet, and the steps that they go through, the journey that they go through in discovering what's out there and then ultimately making a decision on what they're going to do about that pain or about that need. And that could be going with your firm, that could be going with a competitor, or it could be deciding to do nothing at all. So understanding from start to finish, what's their process like? Now you can see how both of these would be valuable if you're implementing a marketing program. So here's our take. The bottom line is that marketing is communication. And you cannot communicate effectively if you don't understand who you're communicating with or who you're talking to. And so you are not going to be successful in marketing if you do not do the buyer persona or buyer journey work. Now on our side, we're partial to doing the buyer journey because that's the decision-making process. You're getting information specific to the decision about whatever you offer, what your service is, or the pain points that you help alleviate. So that's really gonna more directly impact your marketing rather than knowing that CEO Sam watches football or something like that. So if you're on a budget or if you don't have time to do all this work, don't cut it out completely, at least do the buyer journey. That's going to help you be much more effective. And another thing about both buyer personas and buyer journeys is that this is not something you just cross off your list and forget about. I mean, obviously you're using it for your marketing, but you also want to revisit this process and discovery every few years. We all know how fast the world is changing these days, and that applies to your market as well. So you want to make sure you still understand where people are coming from. This is also going to help you determine any trends in the market that might be a threat or an opportunity that you can take advantage of. And over time, this is going to give you a great advantage over your competition. If you need help with putting together buyer journeys or buyer personas, give me a call or shoot me an email. I'm happy to talk. In the meantime, click like, subscribe, follow around here to get more videos on building a marketing machine for your business. Thanks.